Fashion, although used for self-expression, can also be used in the oppression of thousands. Clothing is everywhere and encompasses every shape and size, but the industry's flaws have been ignored for cheap prices that make stores like Forever 21 and H&M so appealing. Fast fashion started in the late 1980s as a way to produce cheaper clothes that allow the catwalk to change by the weekly trends, has been causing drastic consequences that affect millions of workers and consumers in the world. And it is important for the consumer to understand how their clothes are being made and the long lasting impact of the fast fashion industry. The budget friendly fashion sold around the world comes at a cost: the lives and safety of those it employs. Fashion companies are competing to have lower and lower prices, which gives less and less money to those in its employ. For example, the collapse of the Rana Plaza in 2013, an event that killed more than 1,000 people. On April 23rd, cracks appeared in the building, shaking the structure enough that workers fled. Factory bosses discounted any concerns and ordered workers into the building the next morning. On April 24th, the building fell, trapping hundreds in the rubble, all because a meager profit was found more important than the workers' safety. The blame for the plaza collapse was put on all the bosses and owners of the company, rather than the retailers who pressured the owners into producing lots of clothes for little profit. And without the profit, the factory owners dismissed many hazards due to their inability to afford a solution. Arif Jebtik, a factory owner in Dhaka, Bangladesh, said in an interview, "A brand wants to sell a t-shirt for $4, while its competitor is selling it for $5. The brand wants us to decrease our prices, otherwise it will go somewhere else. So I reduce the price. I keep them consistently low. We must survive. We don't have a choice." Arif would get pressure from the retailer and then feel forced to pressure the workers to produce clothes faster and cheaper. This is common for factory owners in countries like Bangladesh. They oftentimes ignore safety precautions as is seen in the Rana Plaza disaster, instead focusing on continuing to appease the retailers. This is one of the many problems of the industry. Fast fashion also allows retailers to take advantage of its workers. In places like Cambodia and Bangladesh, many workers spend long hours in overtime without compensation. In 2012, a factory in Cambodia had promised its workers a delayed salary if they kept working to meet demand. Months afterward, no money had been given for any of the work done. With the monthly salaries of garment makers not being enough to provide for their basic needs, at $80 per month, every extra hour is time needed to make money. But many of their extra hours go unpaid. Retailers and factory owners alike have been using developing countries as their preferred stomping ground due to lack of options. Without many other options for honest work, women turn to the factories. Using this information, sweatshops have been justified and portrayed as beneficial for the workers. The wealth that fast fashion has caused has brought in the incentive to lie to the public about the truth of the industry and try to hide the monstrosities of the industry. The profit that has made fast fashion have caused the progression of workers' rights in the industry to move at a snail's pace. The workers' rights issues in fast fashion have been ignored due to the profitable outcome of the industry, and when brought to light, the workers face violence and cruelty. In Bangladesh, Shima Akhtar was shown just how far the factories will go to keep their workers in place. Shima is a garment worker and a union leader, committed to trying to improve conditions in factory lives. But after she had submitted a list of demands, the factory locked its doors and attacked the workers in the factory. The owners, although acting inhumanely, would not be able to meet the demands. The small profit they make is not enough to fix the problems. The current trend of the way of business will not ever allow for major changes starting at the factory. The changes will always have to start from the top. Furthermore, in Cambodia, workers went on the streets, demanding what they call a proper salary to make a decent living with dignity. This event ended in the death of 4 workers and the injuring of over 40 workers by the police. In Cambodia, clothing is one of its main exports and provides work for many. But clothing is also oppressing the millions within its reach. The solution is sustainable fashion. Although slightly less profitable, it would make a long-lasting positive impact on the world, something very different than the fast and cheap version presenting itself in current day. Fast fashion is also the cause of many health problems that affect its workers and the people near the factories. Birth defects, cancer, and other illnesses have gone up with the use of fast fashion. Chemicals have always been used in the creation of clothes, but never at the scale of modern day. Between dyes and pesticides, health problems have varied and reached into the lives of many. Kanpur, India, is located near the Ganges River and is a major producer of materials for clothes such as leather. The treating of leather uses harsh chemicals that are often dumped into the river. The polluted river is used for drinking and fishing, and the chemicals cause many physical consequences such as liver disorders and types of cancer. Fast fashion pushed the business out of the United States of America and into foreign countries. In the 1960s, 95% of clothes sold in the U.S. were made in the U.S. Today, only 3% is. Fast fashion couldn't be possible if production was in the U.S. because our laws and regulations on working. So the retailers moved to other countries to remove accountability from themselves. Physical consequences are not the only ones, but mental also. In Punjab, India, the biggest cotton farming region of India, there is the highest farmer suicide rate ever recorded. To grow cotton quicker and to make it more resilient, it is often genetically modified. These were forced onto farmers with higher price tag than regular cotton and with many more obligations. Genetically modified cotton needed pesticides that were produced by the same company that had changed the cotton in the first place. The more pesticides used, the less work and even more needed to be bought to kill weeds. That had never affected the normal cotton. In many cases, the soil doesn't react properly, and the farmers end up in debt. Losing their land and life savings, farmers resort to death by pesticide. Not only does the physical essence of humanity get polluted by fast fashion, but also the mental. Fashion is the second most polluting industry and has contaminated the earth to an extreme amount. Fast fashion makes its sales on the idea that if it is cheap enough for the consumer, we'll be willing to get rid of it after a little while and keep buying more cheap clothes. Sadly, this idea has spread unknowingly to the consumer and prompted fast fashion to grow further. In America, there's 11 million tons of clothes being thrown away each year. Almost all of the clothes thrown away are non-biodegradable and will sit in landfills for over 200 years while producing harmful gases and releasing them into the air. Additionally, the pollution of synthetic fibers into the ocean has been steadily rising, along with the fibers that make it into seafood. Synthetic fibers such as polyester have been studied and were found to release microfibers when they are washed. The fibers end up in the ocean and make it a way into fish and other human food resources. The use of cheap synthetic materials grew as fast as fast fashion did and have been shown to produce negative consequences. Without fast fashion, the need of having such cheap fiber would be unnecessary and the ocean would be much cleaner. Fast fashion, if ended this year, would still be 11 million tons of waste from the U.S. alone 200 years from now. Although the problem won't go away quickly, it is large enough where action is needed as soon as possible. Fast fashion is deadly and harmful industry for humans and the environment around them and has hurt society and will continue to do so if not changed. The responsibility to change the industry lies with consumers, whose awareness and accountability can help in erasing the mistake that is fast fashion.